When I was in first grade, I had a teacher named Helen Brown. She was my first grade teacher. I always tell people that we were too smart. We didn't need kindergarten. We went directly to first grade. And she, from day one, I just wanted to be just like her. She was always very, very helpful to the 40 or so kids back then that she had in her classroom. She had first and second graders, and she let me help too. So that was a big, big deal for me. And when I found out that I could help somebody else learn, I wanted to be a teacher just like her. I went into the Richmond school system in, 1978. Immediately after I'd finished my bachelor's degree. It only took me 17 years to do that, but I went to IU, Bloomington for 2 years, and then after that I married and I strung out my education for 17 years. And as soon as I had done my student teaching, Richmond Community Schools offered me a job. So in the fall of 1978, I went to Test Junior High School, it was at that time, and that's when I started my teaching career. Before that, I had done some subbing in the schools, and I had done, also had been a paraprofessional for a little bit, and so I knew the schools well, and of course I had children in the schools, so children at Hibbard, and so I was ready to work in the school. Yes, as a matter of fact. When I first did my student teaching, I did it at Pleasant View. And Pleasant View was a junior high school then, and I was very much interested in why they would place me there where there were so few black students. But I knew that they were placing me with a wonderful, wonderful teacher. His name was Hank Jeans, and he really allowed me to come in and do my student teaching and do what I needed to do. And from that point on, I realized that being in this community and being in the school system was not going to be an easy task, because I was a teacher with high expectations, and Hank Jeans just supported me there. When I was implementing my grading system, and some of the parents didn't care for my grading system and they questioned my ability to teach, and he just stood up for me and said, she's doing her student teaching, she needs to have this learning experience. If she grades differently than I do, that's not because of her race, that's because she has different ideas about how students learn. And what concerned me most back then is people would ask me, well, did my student get an A? They would ask me that rather than, what did my student learn? If they're getting this grade, what are they learning? What are they missing? No, it was all about grades. And that followed me throughout my career. I was always fighting that battle about why a student got a certain grade. I even had a parent one time call me somewhere on his vacation up in Vermont and questioned me about a student's grade. Now at that time I was an assistant principal, and I was supporting one of my teachers who had a grading system that he didn't care for, and so he wanted his child's grade changed from an A- to an A. And I just said it wasn't about race at that time, but all of those kinds of things, whether they came out of a teacher's discretion or whether they came out of racial issues. And the funny part about the race part is that I was either racist to black people or I was racist to white people. So I couldn't figure out what that all meant. I just had to go with what my heart told me to do, what my heart and mind, and hope to God that I was doing the right thing. I started my principalship in the fall of 1992. Very reluctantly. I wanted to tear up my administrative license at that time. I had been a Chapter 1 director for the school system for Richmond Community Schools for about 3 years, when one of our superintendents called me in and said, you're going to Richmond High School and you're going to be an assistant principal. And I said, well, I just finished my administrative license. My friend Dixie Robinson and I had just finished our getting that administrative license so that we could be principals. And I said, what if I just tear up that license? And he said, well, we want you to go anyway, and you already have it, so just be prepared to go. I never wanted to be a principal of any kind. I never wanted to do discipline. I knew it was going to be a very hard job, and I knew that in this community, because I was one of the first black women in administration, that it was going to be a difficult job to do. And I wasn't the first, but I was one of the first. And it was a difficult job. I spent many days closing my office door and praying that I was going to be doing the right thing for these kids. And that's what I tried to focus on, was the kids. Well, I had lots of good memories because I could call students in, and we were not able to talk to students about our religion or bring up God and in any way. That was just a no-no. But I would let students come into my office, or I'd bring students into my office, and if they just want to sit and talk, I'd just sit there and listen to them, and they might tell me some story, or they might start on something, or they might see something in my office, you know, a poem or something on the wall, or something that I displayed, and they might say something about it, and then they might start asking me about what I thought. Did I believe in God and that kind of thing? Those were some of the best conversations, because we could have those conversations because they brought it up. I didn't mention it. I remember one time I was working with a group of students, and I'm trying to remember now what were they called. They were students, it was a Young Life, I believe was the name of the group. And so I had some of those students in my office one day, and we were just talking. They wanted me to come and chat with them at one of their meetings and so forth. We were just talking, and they said, "You know what, Miss Baker?" I said, "What?" "Well, we used to use you as our excuse." I said, "Your excuse for what?" They said, "Excuse for anything." Said if there was something that we were with a group of kids and we don't want to do, and we knew it was the wrong thing to do, and we know morally that we shouldn't do it, so we would just say, "We can't do that because Miss Baker will get us." And I just cracked up, and I'll never ever forget that they were using me as their excuse, and you know, and getting away with it. And so I was helping them in a subtle way, and I thought it was just marvelous. I thought it was great. I wish I still could remember those students' names, because I would want to know today, what are they doing? Well, I think the most defining moment in my history was when I got my bachelor's and my master's degrees. I came from a family that had not had a graduate. Now, my sister had had her associate's degree, so that was a 2-year degree, but nobody in my family had ever gained a bachelor's and a master's degree and was working on a doctorate when I was pulled in to be a principal. So that was very, very important to me. My dad always emphasized that what you did in life was up to you, and that you could do anything you wanted to do. He always made me feel like, you can do it, you can do it. You're a brag, you can do it. And so that's one of my most important memories, that I did it, I enjoyed it most of the time, and I'm still here. So, still in this community. Nobody's run me out yet.